Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry if I sound a little tired and all that. Um, I just got up. It's early, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Again, like I said, just got up. It's early, and this is an audio video that I was planning to do, and I was actually asked by a fan, well, not a fan, but a friend, if you will, if I could do it. This friend um, is somebody that I've actually dealt with before. This person is sort of like the written version, if you will. It's sort of like the written version. Excuse me. It's sort of like the written version, if you will, of Linkara and Nostalgia Critic, and I think Huey Toonmore. If you want to look at him like that, that's basically what he is. And I'm sorry if my elbow hit the mic there. Ugh. Oh yeah. Gotta drink a lot of Coke to keep yourself awake for something like this. But anyway, this is something he asked me to do, and I was actually going to do it anyway. I'm just kind of surprised that he asked me to do it, but hey, better to do it with permission than without sometimes, right? Anyway, anyway, this guy basically did a top. I mean, you can pretty much see the tile below. This person who we're going to refer to as Double M, pretty much asked me, pretty much did a, hold on, okay, just hitting it. Pretty much did what he considers a top 15 moments countdown of the recent, and I guess you could say recent and currently on hold Mecha Sally arc, or World Tour 2 arc, or Death Egg Mark 2 arc, whatever you want to call it. But basically, he's one of the individuals out there that's actually a fan of this entire story arc. I'm not lying. I'm not lying to you about that. He's actually a fan of it. And let me move a little bit so I can get in position to read this. Get that, pick that up over there. There we go. Well, like I say, get in position to try to read this. He calls it, well, basically, you'll see the title. It says, basically, the title he puts in, again, you'll see it down below. It says, Double M presents, or Double M's top 15 best moments of the Mecha Sally arc. Now, I'm sure he, along with myself, kind of say to ourselves, you know, not a lot of people would agree with what he's about to say here. and that's perfectly fine. I'm sure he's perfectly fine with that. Anyway, if I can read this correctly, he says, and I quote, and if this is a long video, I apologize, but he says, and I quote, "The Mecha Sally arc is one of the best stories ever put into a Sonic comic. The plot is intense, exciting, and a joy to read every time. The character development is strong and well done, and the artwork is among some of the best artwork ever to come out of Archie Comics. It may not be perfect and could have been better, but for what it is, the Mecha Sally arc is a great story. Okay. But for what it is, the Mecha Sally arc is a great story that's always a joy to read, regardless of what any other Archie Sonic critic says about it. I may have already praised this arc to death in my 2-part review. I'll provide a link to that as well, of this thing, in my analysis previously, but I'm not quite finished with it yet. I promise you, though, this will be the last time I'll ever talk about the Mecha Sally arc. So let's talk about the Mecha Sally arc one last time. For I give you the top best moments of Mecha Sally. Yeah, I know this is a sharp contrast to my top worst moments of Endgame, but why do I care? Why do I care? Yeah? Well, I'm here to because I'm here to count down the 15 best moments of the Mecha Sally arc. Alright, and here we go. The top 15. Number 1. Number 15, I should say. Number 15, the tail stall. His choice for number 15 to start off his countdown was top 15. The tail stall. And this is what he says about his choice for 15, the tail stall. And I quote, I know what you're thinking. Hang on. I thought you hated the tail stall with a burning passion. Why the fridge are you listing this one? Why the fridge are you listing this as one of the arc's best moments if you hate it? Well, here's the thing. I hate the Tails doll because of the stupid memes surrounding it, and the overdone claims of it being quote-unquote creepy when actually it isn't. But in Archie, the Tails doll is used as a plot device, and a meaningful one at that. Excuse me. Okay, but in Archie, the Tails doll is used as a plot device, and a meaningful one at that, and isn't just there for the lulz. Oh, excuse me again. And isn't treated as an internet meme. Here's what I mean. The Tails doll creates new problems for the freedom fighters in this arc. It keeps disrupting the nanites. In the Archie verse, that red gem on its head is a nanite disruptor, and making buildings collapse, and it melts the shield generator, allowing Eggman to attack New Mobotropolis. Thus, the Tails doll allows new conflicts to happen, and it provides problems for Team Freedom and the people of New Mobotropolis. Because the Tails doll is a legitimate threat, you want to pay attention to it. You want to see how the heroes, especially Nicole, will deal with a problem like this. And that's what's a good and that's what a good plot device should do. Help drive the plot along while also giving the readers reason to pay attention to it. And now the Tails doll is going to take down a okay, hold on. What was I saying? Right. And now the Tails doll is that hideous monster. It makes you more nervous and excited to see how Team Freedom are going to take down a threat like this. So not only is the Tails doll brought in as a plot device and a shout out to the fan base, but it's also a legitimate threat, and one that you can't wait to see how Team Freedom deals with it. This is also another great example of Ian Flynn giving me reason to pay attention to otherwise useless characters. I saw the Tails doll as a stupid internet meme and overrated as hell. In the Archieverse, I see a very useful Eggman invention and a big threat that the heroes need to take care of as fast as possible. Only a person like Ian Flynn can make the Tails doll into something more than just a stupid internet meme. The only downfall is, well, I would have liked to see more of the Tails doll and thus have even more reason to pay attention to it. But the lack of focus, I guess, makes it more eerie, as the less we know, the more intimidating it is. Taking some hair off the mic there. This Tails doll. I now have a reason to be scared of that damn thing. Alright, now here's his 14th pick. This is one of the long ones. Number 14, Endangered Species, he dubs Plan B. That's right, he dubs this Endangered Species Plan B. And here's why. And I quote, "Everybody who reads Archie Sonic knows this, so I might as well bring it up. Endangered Species was changed thanks to the stupid lawsuit with Archie and Penders. So you can see what I mean by Endangered Species Plan B. Now I know what you're thinking. Why am I listing this as one of the best moments of the saga? Well, obviously because it shows how good Ian Flynn is. Ooh, excuse me again, folks. Alright, continuing on. I quote, Not many writers can handle a story being changed at the 11th hour, and it can be very noticeable when the story suddenly changes. Here, though, it actually didn't feel like the story had suddenly been changed to me. When I first read issue 244, my jaw dropped, and I was more curious than ever in seeing where Endangered Species was going. I was like, quote, all the echidnas are gone? Well, that was unexpected. Can't wait to read more. I did not at all immediately blame the lawsuit, or even remotely think that the lawsuit had anything to do with it. I actually thought that's how the story was supposed to plan out. I know the solicits to the issues were different and suggested a different story, or a blah 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 blah. But I don't really pay much attention to solicits. I thought they said this to lure us under a pretense and then give us a big surprise with the story. So you can imagine my surprise when I found out that Ian didn't intend the arc to turn out this way, and people started crying, quote, lawsuit, 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 over this. Over this. But let's think about this for a minute. Imagine you were a casual reader of the Sonic comics, or you're a collector of Sonic comics, and you don't bother about the loss, about the behind the scenes facts, or don't even use the internet. Would you even have thought the lawsuit had anything to do with how endangered species turned out? No. You wouldn't. You would actually think that's how the story was supposed to pan out. So everyone who hates this arc because of the changes, that's a petty reason, because if you didn't think, okay, that's a petty reason because if you didn't know about the lawsuit, you wouldn't be thinking this or going crazy over it. I didn't think the lawsuit had anything to do with it until I started roaming around and coming across the behind the scenes trivia. So why is it a big deal? And isn't the plot So why is it a big deal? And isn't the plot we got for Endangered Species a more appropriate and fitting plot than what the original solicits for the arc suggested? I mean, it's called Endangered Species. The original solicits didn't sound appropriate for a story entitled Endangered Species. But the one we got is appropriate for a story titled Endangered Species. But as I said, Ian had a plan B for this great story arc, and it paid off beautifully. Well, hold on. Make sure I get this. Oops. Oh, yeah. But as I said, Ian Flynn had a plan B for this great story arc, and it paid off beautifully. The change in story felt natural, and it didn't feel sudden. Now what happened? Maybe it does that. The change in the story felt natural and didn't feel sudden or forced in any way. Everything is well explained. And stupid advertisements. You can't read DeviantArt without these things doing this. But anyway, like I was saying, the change in story felt natural and didn't feel sudden or forced in any way. Everything is well explained and well set up. And well, the extra story we got instead of the one we were promised was better. It's setting up new character development for Knuckles. A great new rivalry with Knuckles and Thrash. Possible future stories with Thrash. A sinister mystery with the Tasmanian Devils, for we see that Thrash may not be the last one after all, and it got rid of all those Knuckles recolors that the comic is plagued with. But more on that later. The fact the story was changed made it more unpredictable and more surprising, thus making you more excited and anxious to read more and see how it turns out. I enjoyed in surprise, and I love to see what happens next. So you can imagine why I like this. Endangered Species Plan B. Ian sure knew how to handle a big story change, whether you agree with me or not. Alright. Number 13. All the second stories. If these damn hop-ups will stop. All the second stories. Number 13. The second stories we got in this arc have been considered, have been great, considering they're only 5 pages long. There are some exceptions, like Unfriendly Skies from issue 242, but the rest have been good and have contributed to the Mecha Sally arc's overall greatness. Fragile from issue 232 may have not gone anywhere, but it was a very sweet story that makes you understand Bunny's inner turmoil. And you feel touched by Antoine's comforting words, and how Bunny is special to him in more ways than one. Had it gone anywhere? Had it gone anywhere, it may have been better. Heart to Heart from 237 was a perfect end to Mina Mongooses' overall character arc that she had from issues 219 to 237. The interactions and discussions between Nicole and Mina are very heartfelt and very real, and you feel for both characters, and you see that Mina is not as bad as you've been falsely led to believe, thanks to issue 221. It also shows how far Mina has developed since the days of Penders/Bowlers, and is now more like a character than ever before, as well as this before as of okay. And is now more like a character than ever before as of this wonderful story. Now that's what I call character development. Leader of the Band, issue 236, does a great job of setting up Team Freedom, and it's also the first time we're given a reason to pay attention to the Tails doll, so it makes a story worth reading. Haunted from 231 not only gives us some of Evan Stanley's great artwork and lush coloring, but it also sows more seeds into the plot that gives us something else to pay attention to, and give the arc more stories to tell than just saving Sally. It also gives us sufficient reason to fear Nagas, as the spirits in his mind may have him more demented and more desperate than ever before. They certainly do too. I mean, Jeffrey got possessed by Nagas out of desperation in issue 241. Foundation work from issue 238 is a great setup for the Secret Freedom Fighters, and perfectly explains how the team got together, and how Shard's still alive. A 5-pager well worth sitting through. And need we forget, from the shadows of from issue 233 and Dark Hearts from 234. You know, I'm getting sick and tired of these advertisements, these little pop-ups here. Alright, hold on. And need we forget, okay, From the Shadows from 233 and Dark Hearts from 234. From the Shadows is a great return for Harvey Who, and a great setup for the eventual Secret Freedom Fighter arc in Sonic Universe. Excuse me again. And Dark Hearts gives us the answer as to how Eggman knew when to strike the Freedom Fighters, and tells new readers the full history between Naugus and Eggman, satisfying the curiosity on why they hate each other so much. These 5 pages all contribute to the story in great ways. Issue 237 to 238 more so than the main stories. These 5-pagers explain the necessary details, set up other parts of the arc, and also resolve other stories. Always, like the deal with Mina and Nicole. It's stories like these that prove even the smallest things contribute greatly to the bigger story. The second stories, Ian Flynn manages to make them work despite only having 5 pages. Alright, number 12. The length of the story, the length of the saga. Alright, number 12. The length of the saga. Alright. This is what they say. I'm gonna skip the first 2 lines, but this is so I can get to the meat of it. The meat of his number 12 reason. The length of the arc. Or the length of the saga, I should say. This is what he says, and I quote: I know a lot of you are going to think, quote, how could you possibly say the length of the arc is one of the best things about it? Well, the answer is obvious. Longer stories are better than short stories. For me, length can make a big difference in the great scheme of things. Think about it for a second. If the entire arc was resolved in about 5 issues, then the whole arc would have been pointless. No character development would have happened, the story would have been rushed to the end, and the reader would have just end up asking themselves, what was the point of this happening if it got resolved so quickly? Ian Flynn knows better than to bore the reader, because he's a great writer. Say whatever you will about him, you're all wrong anyway. A great writer like Ian Flynn knows if you do something as big and game-changing as roboticizing Sally Acorn, you can't just have it be brief or anything. No, you have to do something with it. And that's why he made the arc as long as he did. Because he knew that you shouldn't take an idea like this and have it get resolved ridiculously easy. That's boring. That's boring. When you do a plot twist as big as this, you do not have it get started, or you do not have it get sorted out dead easily. I mean, look at shows like the 2003 TMNT cartoon. That show never resolved anything big and epic very quickly. They took their time with the story and took advantage of the extended length to make it better and more worthwhile, and thus it has a meaning and a greater impact in the grand scheme of things. And that's exactly what the Mecha Sally arc is doing. Taking advantage of its length and making it better. Excuse me. Because of the arc being longer, it'll have a bigger impact on the story as a whole when it's officially over into issue 252. And that's what makes it better. The length of the arc will make the story stand out and have a bigger impact on the continuity, and that is exactly why Ian Flynn made it this way. We knew that he knew that resolving it too quickly was a boneheaded idea, and making it longer was the right way to go about it. Not only is the story less predictable and more intense, but more stuff managed to happen to vary the interest to vary the interest of the reader. We got the stuff going on back home in New Metropolis, the secret freedom fighters and endangered species. If the arc was short and just about saving Sally, that would have been generic, cliche, and boring. It's precisely the length of the arc that makes it anything but those. The length of the arc proved that longer does indeed mean better. Alright. Number 11. The whole crud storm from issues 230 to 235. If anybody asks how to escalate a story and grab readers' attentions and make them exhibit and practically pooping themselves for more, you point them in the directions of these issues. Issue 230 starts off this whole epic by having Sally roboticized. This is the perfect way to add a twist in the story and make the whole thing more exciting and engaging. Having issue 230 simply ending with Sonic and his friends winning would have just resulted in the reader putting down the comic and saying, "Puh, what a shocker, they won." Because of the way it ended, the reader's reaction is now, "Holy googly rat balls, I did not see that coming. I must read more." Well, maybe not exactly like that. Which is exactly what you want the reader to do. Keep coming back, wanting to read more. This is the perfect sign of good writing if a comic can make you want to see the next issue eagerly. 231 then adds more to that big plate of awesomeness. By having Sonic get dumped out of the Death Egg, the deploying of Titan Metal Sonic, and the Tails doll. The planes getting destroyed, Bunny getting crystallized, Nog is making a good image of himself, and the Death Egg getting away with Mecha Sally on board. Since nobody can see that coming, it surprises them and makes them anxious to see how the heroes will turn this around. And that's what makes this issue so awesome. Issue 232 then adds more to the table of terrific by having the unthinkable yet happen. Nog is getting crowned king. When you see a twist in a story like this, you want to pay attention to it. You desperately want to see how the heroes will deal with a problem like this. And that's what a good story should do, make you want to see more. Issue 234 has Antoine sacrifice himself in order to save the king. Not only is this awesome and another great twist in the story, but it shows how far Antoine has come from the days of old and makes you take Dr. Eggman more seriously as a villain than ever before. All of this not only makes the story more worth reading and paying attention to, but it also gives the characters great new choices. Getting developed. Opens doors for new stories and makes the stories more exciting and enticing. This is a very sharp contrast to the terrible Endgame saga, a Carl Bowler's big story arc from issues 125 to 134, where they didn't do anything of interest, and rather than making you want to read more, those stories made you want to throw the comic over your shoulder and read anything but them, further proving why the Mecha Sally arc is leagues above Ken and Carl's magnum opus. The Crud Storm, perfect ways of hyping up your interest. Alright. Number 10. Using Sonic Universe to fill in the gaps. A monthly comic does have its disadvantages at times, as there's only so much you could tell in a year. And that's why Ian Flynn made Sonic Universe, so he could have more room to tell stories and have more material to work with. It proved to be a good idea for Sonic Universe. Sonic Universe plays very vital parts in the Mecha Sally arc, bridging in the gaps between issues and filling the readers in on a few things, as well as adding more stuff to the story. First we have Babylon Rising, which could have easily been another story altogether, but it has a purpose. But it has a purpose in the grand scheme of things, and actually has a purpose and isn't just there for the sake of it. True, the Babylon Rogues never show up again, but Ian Flynn doesn't pretend the arc didn't happen, which puts him above Ken Penders, who likes to retcon on anything that's not written by him. He uses the events of the Babylon Rising to his advantage. The pit left behind after the destruction of Castle Acorn ended up being used later in the saga. It also gave Sonic more stuff to deal with than just saving Sally. Then we have the Eggman arc, aka Scrambled, which puts the whole Eggman and Snively rivalry to bed, seemingly for good. But it does more than that. It lets us see more of Mecha Sally in action, shows us how serious a villain Dr. Eggman can truly be when he has the right mind for it. It also sets up more future stories as we'll reveal more and more of the Death Egg Legion. The events of the Eggman arc has given me more ideas I hope to put into Archie Sonic one day. And then, of course, we get the Secret Freedom Fighters arc, Unsung Heroes, which expands more on the Naga subplot and shows us that Jeffrey may not be as bad as it seems. Also, it finally closes the door on Silver's traitor story, as the arc ends with Silver finding out who the traitor is. An arc with a great purpose indeed. The Chaotic arc doesn't really contribute to the overall story, but it gives us an idea of what the Chaotics are doing with the Mecha Sally arcs going on, and also closes the door on Mighty looking for his sister. Sonic Universe issue 50 is more of a lead-in to Worlds Collide, but it still has its purpose in the Mecha Sally arc. It gives Shard some character development, and also makes a new Metal Sonic that might finally be a threat to the heroes. The Sonic Universe arcs actually end up making the Mecha Sally arc even longer. Here's the actual reading order that you should read them in. Main comic. Issues 231, 230 to 230. Okay, for the main comic, issues 230 to 232. Issues Sonic Universe issues 33 to 36. Issues 233 to 234. Universe issues 37 to 40. Main comic issues 235 to 240, Universe issues 41 to 44, main comic issue 241, Sonic Universe issue 246, issue 243, Sonic Universe 247, issue 244, Sonic Universe 48, 245, Sonic Universe 49, 246, Universe issue 50, and issue 247. If you read all those, you have yourself a complete saga. It would be nice if the main story was about 4 or 5 issues longer, and we got an arc starring Bunny Rabbit so we could see how she's doing. But oh well, it's good for what we got. Sonic Universe. It does its job perfectly, and it leaves an impact in the greater scheme of things. Alright. Number 9. Obscure characters being given new purpose. Some people may have issues with this. Oh shoot, I didn't want to do that. I have to move my feet a little bit. Some people may have issues with this, but I happily sneer at them, for they don't know what they're talking about. In my opinion, when it comes to a story and a cast of characters, any character can contribute to a story, as long as you have the right writer to give them something to do. In the days of old Archie Sonic, the writers were too good at creating characters and really bad at doing something with them. A lot of characters ended up being forgotten and left in the dustbin of forgotten media. But thankfully, Ian Flynn came along and rescued those characters from said dustbin. Ian Flynn's one of those writers who seems to have a use for any character he gets his hands on, minus Dulcie the Dragon. He's already done a good job of giving obscure characters new purpose, what with Bean and Bark now having personalities, and being remembered by the fans, and now, as well as making the Iron Queen and Iron King new villains. But in the Mecha Sally arc, he does it again, and it pays off beautifully. Harvey Hugh was a joke character introduced way back in Sonic the Hedgehog issue 16, in Sonic the Hedgehog issue 16, and was never seen again. So you can imagine everybody's surprise when he was reintroduced in issue 233, and of course, Ian Flynn puts him to better use than the writers before him. Harvey, who is now contributing to the downfall of Nagas, and is being a great help to the heroes as a whole. Who would have guessed that Harvey would end up being so useful and critical to a story in this comic? How about Larry Lynx? When was the last time he showed up? That god-awful Sonic Live story? Who would have thought he was going to come back? And he comes back for a good purpose. To become a secret freedom fighter. A true case of what's old is new again. And a fine example of Ian Flynn giving old characters new purpose. I love to see what the writers before Ian could have come up with. Even dead characters like Metal Sonic 2.5 have fallen into Ian Flynn's capable hands of giving new purpose. And we now have Shard the Metal Sonic. Admitted, even you, Archie Sonic critics, can't ignore the awesome bit of development Metal Sonic 2.5 was given. A new purpose, and Shard has contributed greatly to the Mecha Sally arc as a whole. There's also Lita and Lyko, who have been given this great treatment, but you already know what I'm going to say about them, so I'll stop right there. Even the Tails doll gets the treatment. He hasn't been seen since Sonic R, which is a racing game, and has had nothing going for him except dumbass internet memes, and now in the comic, he's a critical element in the Mecha Sally arc. Much better than being the slowest character in a racing game. Any character can be given a purpose, even an obscure one, and Ian takes that fact to his advantage. All the characters I've mentioned have been given new purpose, and people now have a reason to pay attention to them and get invested in them. New readers, however, are just simply reintroduced to these characters, but whatever. Ian Flynn brought these characters back for good, and they certainly did their jobs well in this arc. Further proving that any character has great potential and shouldn't be wasted. The Echidnas, however, they're a lost cause, but we're not quite there yet, so I won't say anything until we get there. Number 8. Number 8. Any of the heartfelt moments in this arc. When you have crap like this going on, you expect some heartfelt moments from the characters at the most. And we get plenty of those throughout the arc. Issues 230 to 232 have some good moments of heart-like. Okay, issues 230 to 232 have some good moments of heart, like the characters showing remorse over losing Sally, and feeling bad over all the bad stuff they've been going through. Fragile from issue 232 was very heartfelt and heartwarming, was a very heartfelt and heartwarming story that tugs at your heartstrings and makes you feel for Bunny Rabbit. 235 has a very heartfelt story too, with a great heartwarming moment from characters like Bunny and Tails. And you even have a moment with Rhoda and Nicole, and though Sonic's a bit angry in the issue, you can understand his anger, and he manages to show how much heart he has, like feeling guilt over being a jerk to Antron all those years, and that he can be there to comfort Amy, who's crying in his home, and by sticking up for Antron, and by showing Silver he's not the traitor he's looking for. Now I bring up Heart to Heart again. Okay, hold on. Ugh. Need I bring up Heart to Heart again? Of course not. I've said enough about that gem of a five-pager. Even Endangered Species gets a heartfelt moment too, like the one with Sonic hugging Amy and comforting her after all the crap they've gone through in that gem of a story. All those moments are very heartfelt, and the emotions are very real and make you feel for the characters. It also gives them more depth to the characters. True, we could have had maybe a little more emotion out of the characters like Sonic, but with Sega giving Ian Flynn these ridiculous mandates, you have to accept what you get. The heartfelt moments in this arc are still good, for what they are at least. The heartfelt moments, giving us more reason to care for the characters than ever before. Number 7. The Trial of Jeffrey St. John. Before issue 219, Jeffrey St. John had nothing good for him, and gave the reader no reason to pay attention to him, or even care about him. Then comes the heel turn, and bam! Jeffrey suddenly gets interesting, and people now have a reason to pay attention to him. People were theorizing like crazy over why Jeffrey turned traitor, and what secrets he may be hiding. And then comes issue 233, where we get the full details of Jeffrey St. John's backstory. The trial itself, I will acknowledge, is a giant retcon on everything we knew about the character at first. But come on, guys. Did you really care about Jeffrey, or even know that much about him to begin with? Since Jeffrey's backstory was kept very vague, and never really expanded on, Ian Flynn could say what he liked about Jeffrey, and it could fit since we know next to nothing about him. The trial gives us all the answers we've been waiting for since Jeffrey's heel turn. And despite being a retcon, it doesn't feel too much like a retcon. It feels very natural. And that is truly the story of Jeffrey St. John. There was nowhere in his backstory where I yelled, there was nowhere in his backstory where I yelled out, bullcrap. I took everything in, and I have a very easy time believing all this. The whole trial of Jeffrey St. John not only gives us the backstory at last, it makes the reader sympathize with him and pay more attention to him, me included. It also ties in with everything related to Jeffrey beautifully, thus making the backstory more credible, and shows how much Ian Flynn cares about continuity, contrasting to what the critics say about him. Alright. The Trial of Jeffrey St. John. A great trial that made Jeffrey a great character worth paying attention to. Number 6. Antoine's Sacrifice. I would be saying this is one of the arc's best moments because I hate Antoine more than words can describe, and seeing him get blown up makes me sadistically happy, but no, I'm not saying that's the reason it's on the list, because it's not. The reason it's on the list because it shows how far Antoine has grown as a character. He's no longer the bumbling coward with a vain and pompous attitude. He is now a badass, brave warrior who is willing to sacrifice himself just to save his king and family. This is an Antoine I can respect and put up with. This is the character Antoine should be, and thanks to Ian Flynn, he's become that character. It's a great show of character development on Antoine's part, and will leave an impact on him for years to go. It also opened new doors for Bunny Rabbit, as it's called for her to depart to Sandblast City in order to get new cybernetics, and may lead up to new character development for her and Antoine. And Antoine himself may develop from all this when he wakes up from his coma. What would have made Antoine's sacrifice more credible was if he actually, died. No, I don't mean that in a hateful way. I mean, if Antoine died, then his sacrifice could have been more credible and show how much further he's come. It also would show a character dying to save lives, and that would be more commendable than just being put into a coma while saving lives. But at the same time, killing off Antoine would have been too much for the already upset fans at the time, so it's good he didn't die, really. Antoine's sacrifice. Antoine's crowning moment of awesome in the whole of this comic book. Number 5. All the character development. Character development is up through the roof in this arc, and I'll explain which characters have been getting it throughout the arc. Sonic. As of this arc, he has now ascended from Speedy Joker with a heart of gold to Speedy Joker with a heart of gold, who is now the leader of his own team, and has now become capable of experiencing loss and defeat and working off of it in order to bounce back and fight for the greater good. Probably the most amount we'll get from Sonic. Amy. She has ascended from annoying stalker fangirl to eager freedom fighter who can take care of herself and is now capable of keeping her fangirly behavior under control, and is much more mature than before. Evident in how she didn't let Mecha Sally toy with her and states she is trying to save her, not destroy her, like one would assume from her. Now that's an Amy Rose anyone can enjoy. Nicole. She's experienced more emotions than any computer has ever experienced, and now has to deal with being hated, frightened, and scared, and as of her exile being overturned, will now have to deal with keeping the citizens happy and gain back their trust. It'll be difficult, but she'll get there. Nicole truly is more Mobian than most characters in the entire comic. Antoine, need I say more? Bunny. After her de-robotization, we get to see her experience change and confront her inner turmoil as she adjusts to being normal, and now we also get to see her experience tragedy and see how she copes with it and how she'll work off it, as well as showing she'll do anything to keep Antoine safe, even if it means giving up being all natural to do it. That is great heart right there. Giving up what she's always longed for so she can fight for the world and keep Antoine safe. We could have gotten more if we got to see her quest to Sandblast City, but it's still good. Mina. I've already stated her case earlier in the list. Knuckles. As of endangered species, we know how he copes with loss. As of endangered species, we'll see how he copes with loss. And now his kind are gone, and he's the last. There's a whole lot of opportunities that can be done with this. Knuckles has descended from Last Guardian to Last Echidna, and that can lead to great new development for him. There's a lot of other good character development here and there, and Sally herself will likely get some great development once she's de-roboticized. If only other media could take examples like this when they try character development. The character development. Nobody does it better than Ian Flynn. Yeah, I'd probably watch saying that because you're probably going to get people disagreeing with that. Number 4. Sally's Sacrifice. Sally's Sacrifice is Sally's sacrifice is on the list for similar reasons to Antoine's sacrifice, but her sacrifice has more to it than that. The sacrifice is not only well done and well set up to the point she had to. Okay. The sacrifice is not only done and well set up to the point she had to do it in order to save the world. It's also touching and makes you feel for Sally as she has to make the hard choice and press the one button that will likely doom her forever. Also, Sally's sacrifice helped to set up this great arc. If Sally never sacrificed herself, then all the characters would be missing out on great character development that we've been given. Nothing would change, the story would be boring and generic, and Sally would just be the same character as before. Boring. But Sally sacrificed herself because she cares for the world and her people, and she put the needs of the many above the needs of the few, because she's got a heart and is willing to give herself up for the greater good. She knew the risk by sacrificing herself, and being lost to Eggman is far better than the entire world being roboticized. Also, this sacrifice repairs the damage done to her by Ken and Carl. She's no longer selfish, she's no longer caring about only herself, and that is a massive step up from the piece of crap character she was under the other writers. It also shows that she's not a Mary Sue character of any kind, as she has to make a tough choice where either outcome will be bad, either outcome will be bad, and the fact she doesn't do the impossible and find another solution. Face it, there was no chance of her escaping that without a scratch. Shows that she's an actual character and not just an over glorified character, and not just an over glorified character's pet of anything. Sally's sacrifice. It was for a good cause in more ways than one. All right. Number 3, the artwork and front covers. I don't even need to say why this is on the list, other than the artwork is some of the best we've seen in the comic. Although Tracy Yardlin is sadly lacking, but I blame Terry Austin, the inker, for that. And the front covers are eye-catching, creative, and awesome. Ben Bates, Jamal Peppers, Evan Stanley, and Stephen Butler gave this arc some great artwork. And the front covers just justify the artwork beautifully. These are comics with pages worth looking at thanks to the brilliant artwork that's contained in them. Alright, number 2, Echidna's Bye-Bye. I've made it quite clear that I vehemently loathe the Echidnas from the comic. I hate everything about them. The fact there's too many of them, the fact their kind is the most over-glorified species ever put into a comic, the fact most of the history revolves around them, the fact that the general story of the comic revolves around them, the fact they screwed over the Tasmanian Devils for no reason, the fact that they're constantly making things work, the fact they all look like Knuckles, recolorings, etc., etc. These disgusting waste of characters just had to go full stop. Except for Julie Sue, of course. She deserves to stay as she's an Except for Julie Sue, of course. She deserves to stay as she's an Echidna character that has something going for her. And it's not just being Knuckles' girlfriend. And Dr. Fentivius. But he can't go anyway because he's not a Pender's character. And thus, the lawsuit can't touch him. Ever since I read the comics, I did not in any way care about the echidnas and learning more about them. I care even less about them. They're nothing more than Ken Pender's pets, and just overpopulate the comic with useless, unnecessary characters, as well as make convoluted family trees and pointless subplots that nobody cares about anymore. So you can imagine why this is going on the list. Getting rid of the echidnas was a good thing. There's nothing else that can be done with them. They've served their purposes, not like they had any to begin with, and all they're doing is taking up space in the comic, and they need to just go away. True, we have the echidnas that work for the Dark Egg Legion like Linda, but face it, her role can be filled in by anybody. Her role can be filled in by anybody, so it's not like she's special. Besides, she's a crap character anyway, so why keep her? Double M, let's just say you might find some disagreements with that. Continuing on. And I quote, "The echidnas may not have been intended to be removed from the comics, but thanks to the lawsuit, Ian Flynn was forced to get rid of them all. For some reason, fans don't like this. Why? I mean, seriously, some people out there seriously cared about these stupid excuses for characters. Really? Believe me, guys, the lawsuit did us a favor getting rid of all those useless, unnecessary, unneeded echidnas. They will not be missed whatsoever, and the fact that they're all gone instantly makes the comic a million times better now. But one thing. You cannot have Julie Sue, Ken Penders. You give her back right now. Actually, don't bother. You can keep her. We'll just replace her with Shade. She's cooler anyway. And maybe have the Noctomics replace the Dark Egg Legion Echidna chapter. They're more interesting. The Echidnas. The best thing to do with them was to get rid of them all, except for Dr. Fativius, since he doesn't belong to Ken Penders and thus can stay." And I know he's going to get a lot of criticism for that. And number one, and he says, and the number one best moment of the Mecha Sally arc is the whole arc itself. You may claim I'm cheating on this one, but in the end, the arc in general is the best moment of the arc. I say that in the sense that it succeeds where Endgame fails. It isn't just a moment and nothing more. Or, this is a story that has a purpose and will actually have an impact on the continuity as a whole. It had a lot of build up to it, and it paid off beautifully. Characters have suffered through adversity, experienced defeat and loss, and have developed from those events. The Freedom Fighters will be an all-new team and will lead up to all new stories from the world of Sonic the Hedgehog. The Mecha Sally arc won't just be a moment in the comics history that led up to nothing and left no impact on the story like Endgame did. Mecha Sally has a purpose, and it served its purpose. It's given characters new development, new challenges to face, and has opened doors for stories to be told just like any good story should. And boy, has it done so. There are so many opportunities for new stories as a result of this arc, and new possibilities for characters like Sally Acorn, Bunny Rabbit, and even Nicole. This story just isn't random crap happening for no rhyme or reason, like Endgame was. everything happened for a reason. And those reasons help the arc become the great story it is today. But the crowning moment of this arc is the risk Ian took with it. He dared to do the unthinkable and tell a story that Sonic fandom wouldn't dream of telling. A story with the heroes losing. This is a story that isn't afraid to go in new directions. This is a story that dares to do the unthinkable and risk heavy backlash. And all in the name of good storytelling, and as a result, has given the characters new development and opened up possibilities for future stories to come. And that alone is why the whole Mecha Sally arc in general is the best moment of the Mecha Sally arc. So that's my top 15 best moments of Mecha Sally. I hope you enjoyed the list. And if you have any comments, please be civil about it. If you're an Archie Sonic critic, then you are not allowed to comment on this. You've gotten old and stale very fast, and I know exactly what rebuttals you have for this list if you're an Archie Sonic critic. Don't bother commenting on it. I'll ignore your comment. I'm the media man, and I'll see you next time, for I've got guests coming over to review Sonic Unleashed with me tomorrow. Alright. Okay, well that was me. Well, obviously you heard his name at the end. Double M, aka the Media Man's top 15 best moments of the Mecha Sally arc. And again, I apologize for this video going very long. But yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of you may not agree with his moments there, but you know, it's a decent list. I mean, let's not deny that it is a decent list. I mean, everybody has a right to say what they want to say, and you know, give critique, and even give top, you know, countdown moments and all that, and top 11, top 12, 15 moments, if you will, to what they feel is the best thing about the comic. So you know, again, I can understand, you know, where he's coming from with that. So, and I give him, and out of respect, I actually enjoyed reading that. I actually did enjoy reading the list because, you know, I haven't read the issues yet myself because, you know, what I've said. And again, you guys can agree with or not with that. That's totally your decision. But, you know, for me, it's more along the lines of, it's more along the lines of the fact that, you know, here you have somebody that's willing, whether you agree with how they feel about something or not, here's somebody that's willing to take time out of the schedule to do this and tell you their own way of why something is good and why something, you know, isn't. I mean, heck, they give a quick they actually, it doesn't look like it's that big of an analysis. I'll probably talk about the pros and the cons that they talk about in just a little while. But, yeah, they really, you know, they really just give their own opinion about certain things. So, again, I'll provide the link down below to the top 15, along with the reviews. And I might do the pros and cons later on, just to get out of my system. So, that's all I'm going to say on it. Again, sorry for this video taking so long. Comment below, let me know what you guys think. The links will be provided in the description box. I'll talk to you later.